So, I'm waking up and choosing violence today, okay? Because we need to talk about the absolute man's man. And who may that be? That would be Monkey D. Garp. Now, it may seem weird, but it's like, I think some of his ethics do come into question here. But, as I said, he is the man's man. I mean, he has everything. I mean, he's absolutely brave. He's the hero of the Marines. Like, what more could you ask for? Strong. Like, you're talking about the guy who is literally using battleships as punching bags. Like, what more could you actually need? And, like, obviously, he's such a caring and loving man. Like, otherwise, why would he go out of his way to help hide Roger's kid? To make sure his grandson tried to, like, go down the right footsteps. Even still, he had options to take him in. He never did it. And you could just tell he's just a family man. And, like, above all else, he's very dutiful. Like, he wants to do his job to the best of his ability. And, like, what more can you ask for? Now, the problem comes in is that he's just doing his job. And historically, that's not always been the best. I mean, and even from the critics' perspective, because it's like, okay, well, you look back at Vietnam. And in Vietnam, when they came back, I mean, obviously now, like, history saying that it was just, like, a myth, per se. But they were labeled as baby killers when they came back. And they were spat on. And it's like, they were just kids doing their job. I mean, and of course there's, like, World War II, where it's like, you have, like, the German bad guys. And, like, a lot of them would say, like, oh, well, they were just doing their job. And, like, at first you want to have, like, be taken aback by that, because that's, like, so appalling of an idea that someone can literally put others' lives in danger just because they were told to. And, like, unfortunately, in the 80s, they did studies, like shock therapy studies with two strangers to see if they were willing to go and hurt somebody else just because they were told to. And sadly enough, that's exactly what happened. I mean, and then you're going to also have, like, situations like, of course, more stuff. BLM, Black Lives Matter. And after the whole George Floyd incident, which was just absolute tragedy in and of itself, a lot of the protesters were labeled as rioters because there's a few bad eggs in there. And it's like, okay, but you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater because there's a few bad eggs. Like, at that point, that's like saying, okay, well, we need to get rid of all the Marines because there's people like Akainu or Green Bull. Like, okay. And they're all just doing their job, no matter how extreme. I mean, and it's like, okay, the most extreme portion of it is like is fake and the pal stones, we'll go that whole situation where it's like, okay, well, both sides think that they're doing the right thing, even if one is, like, unequivocally bad, and, like, they justify itself by, like, acting in self-defense, as in they're doing what they feel is right. And, okay, well, how's that apply to Garp? Okay, well, let's go all the way back to God Valley. Okay? God Valley, Garp was on vacation. And he was saying to hell with those celestial dragons, everything like that. But then he has some, like, odd camaraderie with Roger that he's just like, oh, hold on a second. Roger's gonna be there? I'll be there. Because obviously, even back then, he had some disdain for the celestial dragons. And even modern day, he has disdain for the celestial dragons because he's told Stelly that, oh, you want to be one of them scumbags? And it's like, well, you can't really say that out loud, man. Come on now. And he's refusing to get promoted further because he doesn't want to be associated with them. But does that actually excuse him for some of the atrocities of, like, what's going on and what he knows about? Because of course, sure, he's just doing his job. But then Dragon was a Marine, left the Marines, and became a freedom fighter against the oppressive Marines and the oppressive world government. And sure, like, he acknowledges that, yeah, there are going to be good people in the Marines, but that didn't stop him from saying that, no, what they're doing is wrong. Has Garp ever stood there and said any of that? Because, I mean, as far as we can see, all he's done is just been like, oh yeah, you know, he just complained about following orders, but he still followed them. Like, I mean, we had the hope that Sword was going to be some, like, super secret undercover agent, that they're all, like, secretly in with the Revolutionary Army, just to find out that, no, it's literally they just had their 2 weeks notice left in on there. That way, in case they did something stupid, the Marines didn't have to, like, cover for them. But that's mainly for, like, operations like what Garp just did to try and save Kobe. And which brings in the factor of, okay, well, he's willing to break the rules to save Kobe, but now the sore spot, why didn't he break the rules to save Ace? He literally just sat there and told him that he was essentially like a piece of shit for doing and living his life the way that he wanted, when Garp refused to acknowledge Ace and his journey on trying to find, like, am I worth being alive? Because even as a child, Ace had asked that of him. And Garp was just like, it's what you make of it. And it's like, that's a real boomer approach. Like, he's a kid. Of course he deserves to live. Like, that whole thing is just so absolutely mind-blowing. And, like, to know that they have so many slaves, and that it's just so acceptable for them to just, like, oh, hey, yeah, I like that woman right there. You're my wife now. Hey, get rid of that other bitch. What? And the Marines are just like, okay, yeah, didn't see anything. They have a literal slave trade house. And everyone's just okay with that. Like, and you could see that these aren't, like, criminals most of the time. It's literally just people just because. And granted, there are going to be some, like, it's speculated that, what's his face? Arlong is probably going to be in Mary Joie as a slave, because, of course, he wasn't, like, depicted as being impaled down when they were last there. You know, because obviously he would have wanted to get out, but so he's probably a slave as well. But he's also a fishman. Like, they were already notoriously slaves with, like, little to no freedom at all. And what has Garp done about this? Like, he's supposed to be this, like, big, brave hero guy, but all he's doing is just continuing to commit the atrocities for the Marines. Like, I don't care if you're going to have a little hissy fit about it, but it's just like, can we really accept that? Oh, yeah, well, he's such a great guy. I mean, we see how resentful he is. And we see that he wants his family to live and be happy. And we can see that he's remorseful for it. Because, yes, he did just sit there and let Ace die. But was that because he knew that Ace was going to be rescued? Because they knew that all the pirates were going to come take him back. I mean, you have Whitebeard, the strongest man alive. And so, like, was he just waiting to buy his time to, like, hopefully Ace just gets free himself? Because it doesn't match his reaction with, okay, Ace got killed because he was on execution and Akainu killed him. And he was pissed. Like, and it was just ridiculous. But how can you really match that up with the way things have been? I just don't think that it is fair to say that Garp is just this big mystical hero, even from, like, the perspective that we have. Like, of course the Marines in the story are going to say that he's a hero, everything like that. But like us as readers, why are we still accepting that narrative that, oh, he's just a great guy, like he's just, I mean, it's just what it is. No, like I don't find that to be acceptable. I think that there needs to be more like talk about the fact that why is Garp walking the way he walks? Why is he talking the way he talks? Because it doesn't match up. It doesn't match up in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't match up. And like, I wish we could say that we had any like solid evidence, but right now we're at the end of Egghead, and it appears that like, of course, the Giants are going to take Luffy back. And are we going to jump to find out what happened to like Law? I mean, we're going to find out what happened to Kid, because obviously we are right there, so it's like you can't go past that and them not mention, oh yeah, well, you should have seen it, that guy Kid, he came over here like an asshole and was just like blown up. So like, did they save him afterwards, or did they just let him die? Law? I mean, he doesn't have his hat, so I mean, he's good as dead anyway. Like, he can't actually die yet, because he still has time. And then Garp, like, he succeeded in saving all the Marines and stuff like that, but is he gonna die? Like, is Kuzan actually like going to save him, or is he actually going to kill him? Because that's another one that stood on his ground, where it was like, I can make this better. And when he couldn't make it any better, he knew he had to do something different. And he had to walk away. Why hasn't Garp walked away? That's all I'm saying. Just, if he was that great, why hasn't he walked away? Why hasn't he done anything? And I just think that should be something brought up. Everyone should think about more often.